Pope Francis will meet with young people and catechists at the Martyr Stadium on Thursday, February 2nd, 2023 in Kinshasa. The stadium has hosted numerous concerts and sporting events, in addition to being primarily used for football games. The national team of the Democratic Republic of the Congo, AS Vita Club, and DC Motema Pembe play their home games here. The stadium can hold an audience of 100,000 for national games and 80,000 for international ones. The stadium was renamed Stade des Martyrs de la Pentecôte in 1997 in honor of the four ministers, Évariste Kimba, Jerome Anani, Emmanuel Bamba, and Alexander Mahamba, who were executed on June 2, 1966, after being expelled by the former president of the nation, Mobutu Sese Seko. Watch the live broadcast of the Apostolic Journey to the Democratic Republic of Congo and South Sudan on Shalom World, In Pursuit of Peace, January 31st to February 5th. Stay tuned. Expressing his friendship, solidarity, and closeness with the Christians in South Sudan. During this visit, the Holy Father will hold an ecumenical prayer on Saturday, February 4th, and celebrate Holy Mass on Sunday, February 5th, at the John Garang Mausoleum, situated in Juba, the nation's capital. The mausoleum is the final resting place of the Sudan People's Liberation Army's first leader, Dr. John Garang de Mabior. Since 2011, the burial site has served as a focal point for celebrations of South Sudan's liberation fight and Independence Day, which are held on July 9th. This mausoleum is a symbol of all that the government of South Sudan is fighting for and will rank among the top tourist attractions in the future, provided that the country's security situation improves and the government starts taking initiatives to improve the grounds. Watch the live broadcast of the Apostolic Journey to the Democratic Republic of Congo and South Sudan on Shalom World, In Pursuit of Peace, January 31st to February 5th. Stay tuned. Many Christians consider St. John Paul's visit to the Democratic Republic of Congo in 1980 and Zaire in 1985 as pilgrimages of peace. It was historic for the Church of Zaire. The Central African nation, stained with blood for decades due to wars, rapes, killings, and other abuses of human dignity, was chosen symbolically for the Pope's meeting with the people. In addition to promoting peace, during both his visits, he established himself as a strong defender of human rights and religious freedom. Pope John Paul II called for the creation of a new world economic order and a guarantee of workers' rights. The Holy Father believed in speaking on behalf of those who did not have a voice, in this case, the Africans. The Pontiff urged the disciples to the bearers of the Holy Word, firm in the faith, ardent in charity, and courageously overcoming every difficulty and trial, sharing with their brothers and sisters the inexhaustible gift of God. Watch the live broadcast of the Apostolic Journey to the Democratic Republic of the Congo and South Sudan on Shalom World, In Pursuit of Peace, January 31st to February 5th. Stay tuned.
The life of the church here is a life not just theoretical but practical. We have missionaries who are living together in the area where combats are ongoing. And also the church, I would say, above all, is the source of hope for the population, is the light which shows to the population where God is and which is the road which has to be followed to go to God, and is delivering from, in the name of God, a message which is a message of love and which is a message of truth. And the people need very much love and truth. So I think his visit will give a lot of support and will be a milestone in this long path that the Church and that the Catholics are following here in this country. There is a big excitement. There is also, it's also, I would say, a sign of respect of the Pope on behalf of the whole Catholic Church for the sufferances and the pains that the population and the Catholics have endured and are still enduring, especially in the east of the country. I hope that the apostolic visit of Pope Francis will bring reconciliation. This is one of the major purposes. This is the lemma which gathers, links, binds the visit. Then peace and reconciliation depend from the heart of the people.
The modern history of what is now the Democratic Republic of Congo began in the late 19th century when Belgium laid its hands on this land rich in resources. The Republic of the Congo was founded in 1908 as a colony under the Belgian crown, and the days of colonial rule came to an end in 1960, but its early years were marked by political and social unrest. In a coup in November 1965, Colonel Mobutu took control and proclaimed himself president of the nation. Later, he changed both his and the nation's names to Mobutu Sese Seko and Zaire, respectively. Mobutu held onto power for 32 years by the use of harsh force, sham elections, and other means. The Mobutu dictatorship was overthrown by a rebellion led by Laurent Kabila in May 1997. The country was renamed by Kabila as the Democratic Republic of the Congo, but in August 1998, his regime came under attack from an uprising supported by Rwanda and Uganda. After his father, Laurent Kabila, was assassinated in January 2001, Joseph Kabila became the new leader of the country. In October 2002, the new president was successful in negotiating the withdrawal of Rwandan forces occupying eastern Congo. 2 months later, the Pretoria Accord was signed by all remaining warring parties to end the fighting and establish a government of national unity. Over the next few years, the security and human rights situation worsened, especially in its eastern provinces. The Democratic Republic of Congo continues to witness the unfolding of a humanitarian disaster despite the presence of UN troops. The persecution of Christians has grown over the years, with the ADF becoming more audacious in its attacks on Christian communities and churches. Additionally, organized crime and corruption greatly complicate church and community life. According to the United Nations, about 5.6 million were displaced nationwide as of July, with more than 1.6 million in Ituri and more than 1.8 million in only the provinces of North Kivu because of the ongoing insurgency. In June 2022, Belgian King Philippe made his first trip to Congo, where he shared his deepest remorse for the brutal wrongdoings of the colonial era. In August 2022, U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken met with the President Tshisekedi in the capital city of Kinshasa and made a further $10 million funding commitment to encourage peaceful political engagement and fair elections.
The origin of the Church in the Democratic Republic of the Congo is fascinating indeed. It was through diplomacy and hospitality that the faith first made its way into this part of the African continent in the late 15th century. At that point in time, what is today the DRC was part of the Kingdom of Congo. The kingdom's first tryst with the Catholic faith was in 1482, when the Portuguese explorer Diogo Chau sailed up the mouth of the Congo River in 3 caravels, planting padraus, or stone pillars with the cross, and the coat of arms of his mentor and master, King João. With great hospitality, the ruler and his subjects welcomed the Portuguese. When they left for Portugal, 4 Congolese men accompanied them as envoys to the Portuguese king. After learning Portuguese and having gotten acquainted with Catholicism, the 4 emissaries accompanied Chau on his second voyage to the Congo around 1485. They were able to convince King Nzinga Nkuwu, who sent a delegate along with Chau to Lisbon to request King João to send missionaries to spread the faith. Finally, in December in 1490, a delegation of priests, religious, artisans and farmers set sail for the Congo on 3 caravels. Christianity got entrenched in the country in 1491, when King Nkuwu and several nobles were baptized. More Portuguese missionaries reached the heart of Congo in 1508. It was the Congolese king's son, Prince Afonso Mvemba Nzinga, who made the land a Christian kingdom when he ascended the throne. He zealously left no stone unturned to spread the gospel, and his zeal earned him the title of the Apostle of Congo. It was King Afonso's son Henriques who became the first indigenous bishop of the country. It was in 1596 that the Diocese of São Salvador in Mbanza, Congo was erected. In 1640, the Apostolic Prefecture of Congo was set up by the Holy See. Down the centuries, the gradual decline of the Kingdom of Congo, logistical difficulties and life-threatening diseases stemmed the flow of missionaries. However, the faith was kept alive by ordinary people. It was in the year 1865 that the second evangelization of the nation began, with the Vatican entrusting the Apostolic Prefecture of Congo to the Spiritan missionaries. Soon, other missionaries followed. During the Belgian colonial rule from the late 1800s until 1960, missionaries played a pivotal role in spreading the faith and bringing education and healthcare to the impoverished parts of the country. The Church is visible in all spheres of life, as more than 35 million people profess Catholicism. They are spread across 41 dioceses and 6 archdioceses.
It is quite fascinating that Central Africa got its first indigenous bishop way back in the 16th century. He is none other than Bishop Henrique Kinu Mvimba, the son of Afonso I, the king of the Kingdom of Congo, who patronized evangelization, fetching the title of Apostle of Congo. Born in 1495, shortly after the arrival of the faith in the kingdom, Henriques grew up as a devout Catholic under the watchful eyes of his devout father and missionaries from Portugal. Due to his faith, King Afonso sent his son, Henriques, as part of the first group of young men to study in Portugal. Thus, when Henrique was about 11 or 12 years old, he crossed the Atlantic to pursue his studies at the prestigious University of Coimbra. he pursued studies with the intention of becoming a priest. He received his priestly ordination in 1520 and was consecrated as a bishop and was given the titular See of Utica in North Africa's Tunisia. He returned to the Congo a year later and continued the catechetical efforts among the Congolese. Bishop Enrique passed away in 1526.
The Democratic Republic of the Congo, usually referred to as the DRC, is a nation in Central Africa. It is occasionally referred to by its previous name Zaire, which served as its legal name from 1971 until 1997. Pope Francis's visit to this country is a pilgrimage and a plea for peace, intended to contribute to the process of national reconciliation. The visit of the Holy Father to the DRC from the 31st of January to February the 3rd of this year had previously been postponed due to health reasons. The Pope's first stop will be Kinshasa, the capital of the DRC, where he will meet with government officials, victims of conflict, and representatives of philanthropic groups. Archbishop Ettore Balestrero, the Apostolic Nuncio to the DRC, stated that Pope Francis's visit to the nation is the first by a pope in 37 years and is a dream come true for many people. Pope Francis has frequently voiced his closeness to the suffering Congolese people who have undergone years of armed violence fueled by armed gangs. The Christian community in this region frequently experiences horrific violence and the possibility of kidnapping. The ADF kidnaps, rapes, and coerces women into marrying their warriors. Occasionally, Christian women are retained as a prize. The human rights situation across the DRC remains dire, with internal conflicts and poor governance contributing to a severe food crisis and the internal displacement of nearly 5.5 million people, more than anywhere else in Africa. The Archbishop stated in a Vatican News interview that the main goal of the DRC visit is to strengthen the joy of those who have faith and to awaken faith in those who do not have it. The prelate said that there is an expectation of getting a word of consolation and also of healing the wounds that are still bleeding, especially in the east, but also throughout the country.
The life of the church here is a life not just theoretical but practical. We have missionaries who are living together in the area where combats are ongoing. And also the church, I would say, above all, is the source of hope for the population, is the light which shows to the population where God is and which is the road we have to be followed to go to God, and is delivering from, in the name of God, a message which is a message of love and which is a message of truth. And the people need very much love and truth. So I think his visit will give a lot of support and will be a milestone in this long path that the church and that the Catholics are following here in this country. There is a big excitement. There is also, it's also, I would say, a sign of respect of the Pope on behalf of the whole Catholic Church for the sufferances and the pains that the population and the Catholics have endured and are still enduring, especially in the east of the country. I hope that the apostolic visit of Pope Francis will bring reconciliation. This is one of the major purposes. This is the lemma which gathers, links, binds the visit. Then peace and reconciliation depend from the heart of the people.
Ave jaillit, Santo Maria. Soit agréable à Dieu le Père, dans l'unité du Saint et ta volonté.
Les Fils et le Saint-Esprit.
The Roman Catholic faith first reached sub-Saharan Africa, in what is now the Democratic Republic of Congo, in the 15th century. Contact with Portuguese explorers in the 15th century led to a Congolese nobleman and followers to Lisbon, the capital of Portugal, where they embraced the faith and returned with priests to evangelize the land in 1491. Even before Columbus reached the Americas. Under the patronage of the Portuguese king, the church was born in this humid equatorial country, with the baptism of its ruler, Nzinga a Nkuwu, on May 3, 1491, who took the name of John. It was his queen, Leonor, and later their son, Afonso Mvemba Nzinga, who took great efforts to build churches and schools across the land, and spread the faith by incorporating local elements as well. The church in all its vibrancy as we see it today owes a lot to the efforts of missionaries from Belgium in the 19th and early half of the 20th century. Watch the live broadcast of the Apostolic Journey to the Democratic Republic of the Congo and South Sudan on Shalom World. In Pursuit of Peace, January 31st to February 5th. Stay tuned.
Many Christians consider St. John Paul's visit to the Democratic Republic of Congo in 1980 and Zaire in 1985 as pilgrimages of peace. It was historic for the Church of Zaire. The Central African nation, stained with blood for decades due to wars, rapes, killings, and other abuses of human dignity, was chosen symbolically for the Pope's meeting with the people. In addition to promoting peace, during both his visits, he established himself as a strong defender of human rights and religious freedom. Pope John Paul II called for the creation of a new world economic order and a guarantee of workers' rights. The Holy Father believed in speaking on behalf of those who did not have a voice, in this case, the Africans. The Pontiff urged the disciples to the bearers of the Holy Word, firm in the faith, ardent in charity, and courageously overcoming every difficulty and trial, sharing with their brothers and sisters the inexhaustible gift of God. Watch the live broadcast of the Apostolic Journey to the Democratic Republic of the Congo and South Sudan on Shalom World, In Pursuit of Peace, January 31st to February 5th. Stay tuned.
The Apostolic Voyage to the Democratic Republic of Congo in 2023 carries a very significant motto: all reconciled in Jesus Christ. Pope Francis has often expressed his closeness to the people of the DRC, victims of violence, health issues, and political instability. The logo features a map of the African country displaying the colors of the flag. On the left side, a blue cross reflects the devotion of the Congolese people to the Virgin Mary, the Madonna of Congo, who carries and supports the prayers of the whole nation to Christ the Redeemer. The three persons represented are a symbol of fraternity: men and women, adults and children, united in one collage, expressing this wish for unity that can only be God's gift. The palm expresses victory, rebirth, and immortality, and the message of hope that the Pope's visit offers. Finally, in the center, we see the figure of Pope Francis giving his blessing, a great joy for the nation. Watch the live broadcast of the Apostolic Journey to the Democratic Republic of the Congo and South Sudan on Shalom World, In Pursuit of Peace, January 31st to February 5th. Stay tuned. The Apostolic Journey of Pope Francis to South Sudan is the first papal visit to the world's newest country. Due to his failing health, the papal visit that was initially planned for the summer of 2022 had to be delayed. The head of the Roman Catholic Church will pray, meet with internally displaced people, and interact with leaders of South Sudan's philanthropic groups during his visit. Even though South Sudan achieved independence from Sudan in 2011, following years of civil war, the African nation is still ravaged by bloodshed. People continue to suffer as a result of the rising violence across the country. In April 2019, the Holy Father hosted South Sudanese leaders in a 2-day spiritual retreat in the Vatican, urging them to strengthen the African country's faltering peace process. The Holy Father's visit is a follow-up of the same event of 2019 and part of his continuous effort to bring the parties in conflict within the country together for a peaceful reconciliation. Watch the live broadcast of the Apostolic Journey to the Democratic Republic of the Congo and South Sudan on Shalom World, In Pursuit of Peace, January 31st to February 5th.
Of 3 events. The Pope celebrated Mass this morning at Ndolo Airport with about 1 million people in attendance, and about an hour ago he wrapped up a meeting with victims of violence in the eastern part of the Congo. This is Pope Francis's 40th Apostolic Journey. His last Apostolic Journey was to Bahrain from the 3rd to the 6th of November last year. His other trips outside of Italy last year were to Kazakhstan in September, Canada in July, and Malta in April. And as we know, the Holy Father was scheduled to visit the Democratic Republic of the Congo in early July and had to cancel that trip due to a knee injury. The Holy Father is meeting here with members of various groups, including the Dream Center run by the Sant'Egidio. He's meeting also with deaf mutes from Bondeko Village, people who are blind from the schools of Petite Flamme and the Focolare movement, and also those cared for by the Trappist nuns of Mavanda. It looks like now he's greeting a woman who is blind or maybe blind. We'll be hearing a brief presentation by the 6 charities who are here. And our Holy Father will also provide a discourse.
Je m'appelle Tekadio Vangonoli. Je suis né en 1983 à Kinshasa, dans une famille catholique. J'étais encore enfant quand ma mère fut arrachée à mon affection par une mort tragique.
This is a young man, Tekadio, and he was born in 1983 in Kinshasa into a Catholic family. I was still a young child when my mother was taken away from me by a tragic death, and afterwards my father emigrated. I was not born a leper. The first signs appeared when I was 21 years old. Suddenly, I saw an acne-like spot and experienced an indescribable burning sensation. Afterward, I saw that the spot was inexorably growing and multiplying until it reached leopard spot proportions. My body was swelling and I felt weaker and weaker.
J'éprouvais une indescriptible sensation de brûlure. Par la suite, j'ai vu que la tache s'élargissait inexorablement et se multipliait jusqu'à atteindre des proportions semblables à celles des taches de léopard. Mon corps gonflait et je me sentais chaque fois plus faible. Petit à petit, je me transformais en un sujet qui trouble la tranquillité des autres. À la recherche d'une solution,
little by little, I became a subject who disturbed the peace of others. In search of an effective solution, I visited several hospitals and eventually turned to traditional medicine, but the spots kept getting worse and worse. Tears streamed down my face. I suffered terribly in my heart, but not in my body, because I had developed such insensitivity that even if I touched fire and burned myself, I felt no pain. And the same was true when I stepped on a nail or hurt myself. My nerves were paralyzed, and in the end I watched helplessly as my fingers came off and fell from my hands.
Quand j'ai piétiné un clou ou me blessais, mes nerfs étaient paralysés. Et à la fin, je vis impuissant mes doigts se détacher et tomber de mes mains. Dans l'entretemps, ma famille m'avait...
In the meantime, my family had rejected me, and with the complicity of a marabout, got to the point of blaming me for what had happened to me. My father has rejected me to this day. Others, in the end, accused me of being a sorcerer. But how is it possible that a sorcerer could wish such evil on himself? Thanks to God, I met a faithful woman of the St. Martin parish who understood the nature of my stains. Thanks to her, I joined the Hospital de la Rive, where in November 2004 I was diagnosed with leprosy at an already advanced stage. Thanks to the competence and generosity of the staff, at least my life was spared. Since my family had abandoned me, I decided to stay forever in this leper camp. To this day, I am discriminated against. I am looked down upon and humiliated. What worth is a man without fingers? When I pass among the people, they all hurry to wash themselves, even where only my shadow has passed. On their faces I see a mixture of shame, incomprehension, and fear. That's why I feel better here in this leprosarium, where I share the life of these amputees, paralyzed people, all who are rejected by society, like me. On their behalf, I want to show you some of the fruits of our work with which we try to buy a little of that dignity, which, unfortunately, has been stolen from us by life and by other people. And here we see some of the other members of the leper colony, the lepers of La Rive Hospital, now greeting our Holy Father. We may have missed the first testimony, a woman who's been suffering for a handicap that could have been avoided. And she's provided for by the Telema Ongenje, Rise and Shine with the Light of Christ group. We've just heard from a young man who contracted leprosy in his early 20s, rejected by society, and now lives in a leprosarium. This is the third testimony. Most Holy Father, my name is Cecilia. I'm from Cordoba. I'm here with Daniel from Buenos Aires and with a group of Congolese children who study in our FASTA Père Fosberry College in Kimbangu 1, a neighborhood that is like a mirror from the daily wealth and misery of the middle-class population in Kinshasa. She belongs to Colegio Fasta. The young people grow up vagrant, unemployed, and uneducated. The families superficially frequent different religions and are deeply unstable. The children are often abandoned and exposed to violence, verbal or physical, tormented by illnesses that they cannot cure for lack of economic means. Our beloved founder welcomed Your Holiness' invitation to push us to the Congo as the Lord's call to evangelize the youth, the family, and the culture in that country. We are still a small reality, but how much we have learned from this African proverb. 1,000 steps always begin with one step. We open ourselves to everyone, and therefore to Kadia, who is here with me, and who is 4 years old, daughter of Muslim parents, respectful of the Church and of the values of the Gospel. Kadia is discovering life, and in her is also awakening a taste for spirituality and for the message of Jesus. Today there is also Detto, 7 years old, the only son of a single woman who, in order to learn a living, sells fruits at the market. Detto lived exposed to the dangers of the street and to the law of the strongest. He was already used to deciding on his own and allergic to any rules. At school, he discovered friendship, respect, and discipline. And as they say here, he is learning that if you want to go fast, you go alone. But if you want to go far, you have to go with others. Today there is also Zimi, 7 years old, who arrived at the school holding his 6-year-old sister, and the uncle who took them in when they were abandoned by their parents. And Devi, on the other hand, comes from a family that we know we can rely on for the mission. All together today, we want to dedicate to you a song that is a hymn of hope and trust in the Lord.
Je sois assise, que je sois debout, en train de sourire, en train de pleurer. Dieu me regarde et m'aime comme ça. Merci.
The children of the FASTA Colegio, or college, another of the charitable organizations represented here on this first full day of our Holy Father's visit to the Democratic Republic of the Congo. The children now being able to greet our Holy Father, and each of them receiving a pat on the cheek and a rosary. Our Holy Father, before meeting here with the representatives of charitable organizations, met with a group of victims of violence in the eastern part of the country. He's been very forceful regarding violence here in the country. And the Minister of Communication for the government said that his message delivered yesterday before government authorities was exactly what people were hoping to hear. And now we hear from the Dream Community Center of Sant Egidios. Most Holy Father, we express to you the profound gratitude of all the brothers of the community of Saint Egidio from Kivu, Kikwit, Kenge, Kinshasa, but also of all the patients as well as the nursing and support staff of the Dream Center in Floribert, Bwana, Kuvi. At the Dream Center, we answer the call of the many children, women, and men who are confronted with the daily challenges of access to care. This center, built on the outskirts of the city, opened its doors in 2011 to provide free care to people living with AIDS, many orphaned children, elderly people, and other vulnerable and abandoned people of society have found not only a care center but also a home. Better yet, a second family. Even 11 years later, many people remember their first day at the center and say, "Thank you, because I came dead, and you gave me a second life. Indeed, through you, God has given me a second life." Although our center has become a reference center for all people with AIDS, we receive patients with other health problems, such as malnutrition, hypertension, diabetes. Many people have benefited from this service to date. More than 1,800 people are regularly monitored at the center. More than 1,100 children have been born healthy to positive mothers. Thousands of people have benefited from disease prevention and health promotion services, counseling, health awareness in schools, markets, and vaccination against COVID-19, cervical cancer screening. Many orphaned children and other vulnerable children are supported in their schooling. The neighborhood around the center benefits from free access to drinking water. The most fragile and vulnerable have access to food integration. According to the spirit of the community of Sant'Egidio, we pray for the sick on the first Monday and for peace on the third Wednesday of every month. Through this delegation, we would like to receive this blessing for ourselves and for all our brothers and sisters of the Sant'Egidio community in the provinces, the sick and the caregivers. We need it, Holy Father. And in turn, we continue to pray that the Lord will protect you, give you health and longevity. We present you with a symbol of our mission. And it looks like a painting on canvas now being brought forward. The dream program of the Sant'Egidio community exists in other African countries as well. Nigeria, Guinea, Kenya, Tanzania, Mozambique, Zimbabwe, as well as in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. 10 African countries involved who have a DREAM program. It's a health program set up at the initiative of the Sant'Egidio community in collaboration with the DREAM Foundation in order to treat and prevent AIDS in Africa. DREAM initially stood for Drug Resource Enhancement Against AIDS and Malnutrition, and this expressed the program's intention to guarantee the right to health and fight AIDS and malnutrition. But over the years, it's also become much broader in the services that it provides. Our Holy Father, now greeting people representative of the DREAM program here in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. And the young woman is showing our Holy Father something that looks like it might be a photograph album. The DREAM approach is innovative. It aims to ensure maximum results at low cost. Everything takes place in small healthcare centers spread out throughout the various African countries where DREAM is present, so that people in rural areas can reach them as well. One fundamental point is that the services provided are free of charge. Someone offering a book now. And now we move to the deaf community from Bondeko Village School.
La chanson que nous vous dédions ce soir est un cadeau qui provient du fond de notre cœur, intitulé « À vous mes parents », dont nous en sommes les compositeurs, qui est l'un de notre exploit. Cette chanson raconte notre histoire. À vous l'écoute.
Enfants, vous ne m'avez pas privé de l'allaitement.
C'était vraiment un déséquilibre au sein de la famille. Il vous a fallu même divorcer. Et dans tout cela, vous avez eu l'intention de pouvoir mettre fin à ma vie. Mais Dieu avait touché votre cœur. Vous avez manifesté votre amour ineffectuable.
The group presenting right now are blind.
Merci maman, je serai toujours reconnaissant. Aux chers parents, réjouissez-vous, merci infiniment.
And the group, they're dressed in traditional outfits, now being led to our Holy Father, where they too are able to greet him. And the Holy Father speaking to a little boy now who's come forward. They are blind, people who are blind from the schools of Petite Flamme, of the Focolare movement, and the Trappist nuns of Mavanda. And once again, receiving a rosary from the Holy Father, each of them being led forward and helped to return to their seats. Now 3 people have come forward and they're signing what is being spoken. We are a group of deaf and dumb children and young people from the Bondeko village school and blind people from the Little Flames of the Focolare movement. Around us, there are more deaf and dumb than us, because they ignore us and cover their ears so as not to see or hear us when we only ask for an education adapted to our particular conditions. Many people in our situation are illiterate and do not manage to integrate into society, especially professionally. They are pushed aside oppressed or rejected by society. We need guides and experts who remember us and strive to improve the quality of our lives. To this end, we entrust to you today, Most Holy Father, our dream of a more inclusive society. And we say this to you in our own language. May the Lord bless you, which our own sign language. May the Lord bless you and the Democratic Republic of the Congo.
Que le Seigneur vous bénisse et bénisse la République démocratique du Congo. Merci.
So a group of both blind and deaf children from the Petite Flamme, or Little Flames, of the Focolare movement, and the Trappist nuns. Again, the group now coming forward, greeting the Holy Father and receiving a rosary. And now we'll hear from a Trappist nun.
Très Saint-Père,
Most Holy Father,
je suis une moniale trappiste,
I am a Trappist nun,
très heureuse de ma vocation.
very happy with my vocation.
Je m'appelle Marie-Céleste.
My name is Marie Celeste.
Je suis fille d'une société
I am the daughter of a pragmatic, materialistic, and tribalistic society.
avec mes copines. J'étais dominée par la
Along with my girlfriends, I was dominated by the culture of appearances,
et de la réussite.
gain, and success.
Nous étions vulnérables,
We were vulnerable,
heureux,
not always happy,
parce que nous n'avions pas seulement besoin de manger,
because we didn't just need to eat or to wear clothes.
nous avions faim
We were hungry
et d'amour.
for meaning and for love.
Le Seigneur m'a répondu.
The Lord answered me.
Je suis sûre que c'est lui qui a
I am sure that it was He who put in my teenage heart
un désir insupprimable
an irrepressible desire to offer my whole life
une mission grande.
for a mission as big as the world.
Dieu m'a regardé avec un regard
God looked at me with a look of love
et m'a fait grandir.
and made me grow.
J'ai quitté mon
I left my village at the end of 18,
par un appel au monastère
driven by a call to the monastery
urgent en moi.
that was becoming urgent in me
Je ne pouvais pas renoncer.
and which I could not give up.
Le Seigneur m'invitait à une vie de prière.
The Lord was inviting me to a life of prayer and intercession,
Compris dès le début,
and I understood from the beginning
est une grande œuvre de charité.
that this is a great work of charity.
Désiré profondément.
I desired it profoundly.
Monastère, j'ai appris
In the monastery,
la vie
I learned that life does not belong to us.
de mission.
It is mission.
C'est la mission de rendre
It is the mission to make present
celui qui sera
the one
présent.
who has made himself present to us.
Nous, les moines, nous ne
We,
sommes
the nuns, are certainly not holier than others.
seulement, nous voulons élargir le cœur
But we want to widen our hearts to a universal love,
qui a la force de laver les péchés du monde
which has the power to wash away the sins of the world through the tears of our own self-denial.
Je suis très consciente que c'est un
I am very aware that this is a work of self-denial and humility, and I am fully convinced
cela est une œuvre
that it is a great work of charity,
puisqu'elle est un sacrifice par amour,
since it is a sacrifice for love.
puisque l'amour est gratuit,
Since love is free,
c'est un amour reçu
charity is a love received and given.
en moi. La charité est devenue
In me, charity has become a passion for the destiny of others. The essential of life is the encounter with Christ. And I pray that all people might have this encounter and desire it. At Mavanda, in our Trappistine monastery, life is simple, hidden, and laborious. It could be monotonous and banal, but if charity prevails, it expresses the newness of the redeemed. We know that only God can sustain the world with its contradictions, its wars, its wickedness. In spite of our littleness, the crucified Lord desires to have us on His side to sustain the drama of the world. And it is precisely our vocation that is at the heart of the drama of this wounded humanity, especially that of my people, the people you have come to visit today. We assume and offer from within the mystery of pain that life demands, because every anguish and every trial lived in a Christian way has a redeeming value.
À faire face à ces voyages et à ces rencontres. Voici quelques produits de notre prière et de notre travail.
And Sister finishes, thank you for your love and for the courage that has brought you to face this journey and these encounters. Here are some products of our prayer and our work. And there are 4 nuns dressed in the traditional Trappist habit, now bringing forward the work of their hands, the work of that goes on in their convent, as we heard, hidden. Receiving a blessing now from the Holy Father. Holy Father also greeting some others here. And now we prepare ourselves to hear the discourse that our Holy Father has prepared for the representatives that are here of Charities operative in the area.
Vi saluto con affetto e vi ringrazio per i canti, le testimonianze e quanto mi avete raccontato, ma soprattutto per tutto quello che fate. Questo paese dove c'è tanta violenza che rimbomba come il tonfo fragoroso di un albero abbattuto, voi siete la foresta che cresce ogni giorno in silenzio e rende l'aria migliore, respirabile. Certo, fa più rumore l'albero che cade, ma Dio ama e coltiva la generosità che silenziosamente germoglia e porta frutto e posa lo sguardo con gioia su chi serve ai bisognosi. Così cresce il bene nella semplicità dei mani e cuori protesi verso gli altri, nel coraggio dei piccoli passi per avvicinarsi ai più deboli, nel nome di Gesù. È proprio vero quel proverbio che ha citato Cecilia. 1000 passi cominciano sempre da uno.
I greet you with affection and thank you for your songs, your testimonies, and for everything that you've told me, but especially for everything that you are doing. In this country where the sound of violence is heard like the loud crash of a felled tree, you are the forest that quietly grows every day and makes the air clean and breathable. Naturally, a falling tree makes much more noise, but God loves and blesses the generosity that silently sprouts and bears fruit. And He looks with joy upon all those who serve the needy. That is how goodness grows, in the simplicity of hands and hearts stretched out to others, and in the courage of small steps that approach the poor and vulnerable in the name of Jesus. The proverb Cecilia quoted is really true. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. One thing struck me. You did not simply list social problems or provide me with statistics on poverty, but more importantly, you spoke with affection about the poor. You spoke about yourselves and about people you did not know before, but who have now become familiar to you, people with names and faces. I am grateful that you are able to see Jesus in the least of His brothers and sisters. The Lord is to be sought and loved in the poor, and we as Christians must take care not to distance ourselves from them. There is something wrong when a believer keeps Christ's loved ones at a distance. While so many today dismiss the poor, you embrace them. While the world exploits them, you encourage them. Encouragement versus exploitation. Here is a forest that is growing, even as deforestation and waste runs rampant. I would like to make better known what you are doing, to promote growth and hope in the Democratic Republic of the Congo and on this entire continent. I came here out of the desire to be a voice for the voiceless. How I wish the media would give more space to this country and to Africa as a whole. Would that the peoples, cultures, sufferings, and hopes of this young continent of the future be better known. People would discover immense talents and tales of true human and Christian grandeur emerging from a healthy environment, marked by respect for children, the elderly, and all creation. I am happy to be this voice here at the Nunciature because the papal representations, the houses of the Pope throughout the world, are and must be promoters of human development, centers of charity at the forefront of the diplomacy of mercy by their efforts to facilitate effective aid and to favor networks of cooperation. This is now taking place without fanfare in many parts of the world, as it has for a long time here. This house has been a neighborly presence for decades. Established 90 years ago as an apostolic delegation, in a few days it will celebrate the 60th anniversary of its elevation to the rank of Nunciature. Brothers and sisters, you love this country and you devote yourselves to its people. What you do is wonderful, but by no means easy. We are brought to tears when we hear stories like those you have told me, of suffering men and women left homeless by general indifference. This leads them to live on the streets, exposing them to the risk of physical violence and sexual abuse, and even to the accusation of witchcraft, whereas they are only in need of love and care. I was struck by what you told us, Tacadio. Due to leprosy, you still feel today, in 2023, discriminated against, looked down upon, and humiliated, while people with a mixture of shame, incomprehension, and fear rush to disinfect where even your shadow has passed. Poverty and rejection are an offense against human beings, robbing them of their dignity. They are like ashes that extinguish the fire he or she carries within. Yet every person created in the image of God shines with a bright fire, but love alone removes the grime that conceals that image. Only by restoring dignity do we restore humanity. I was saddened to learn that here too, as in many parts of the world, children and the elderly are discarded. This is scandalous and even more so detrimental to the entire society, whose soundness depends precisely on the care it provides to the elderly and children, for they are its roots and its future. Let us not forget, true human development cannot flourish where there is no memory or future. It's the young people that bring us the future and the elderly that provide the memory. Brothers and sisters, today I would like to ask two questions of you, and through you, of the many who work for the good of this country. First is it worth it? Is it worth the effort to battle this constantly increasing ocean of need? Isn't it instead a useless and often discouraging endeavor? What Sister Marie Celeste said can help us to answer that question. She said, "Despite our insignificance, the crucified Lord wants us at His side to help Him bear the tragedies of the world." True, charity attunes us to God, and He surprises us with unexpected wonders through those He loves. Your stories are filled with stupendous happenings known to the heart of God and impossible to attribute merely to human endeavor. I think of what you told us, Pierre, when you said that in the desert of powerlessness and indifference, in the sea of sorrow, you and your friends discovered that God had not forgotten you, because He sent you people who did not turn back as they were crossing the road where you stood. And so in their faces, you discovered the face of Jesus, and now you want to help others do the same. Goodness is like that. It spreads. It is not paralyzed by resignation or statistics, but impels us to give others what we ourselves have freely received. I receive and so I give. Young people in particular need to see this. They need to see faces that overcome indifference by looking people in the eye, and hands that do not wield weapons or misuse money, but hands that reach out to those who are down on the ground and raise them back up to their dignity, the dignity of a daughter or son of God. Only in one case is it legitimate to look at a person from up above, only to help that person get back up. Otherwise, you can never look at a person from up above them. So it is worth it. It is a good sign that the civil authorities, through recent agreements with the Episcopal Conference, have acknowledged and esteemed the efforts of those engaged in social and charitable work. This certainly does not mean that we can systematically delegate to volunteers the care for the most frail and vulnerable, or for health and education. These are primary tasks for those who govern. They should be concerned to ensure that basic services are provided to those who are living far from large urban centers. At the same time, believers in Christ must never sully the witness of charity, which is a witness to God, by pursuing privilege, prestige, fame, and power. This is an awful thing. It's never to be done. No, our means, resources, and goals are to be used for the poor. Those who care for them are always called to remember that power is service, and that charity does not make us rest on our laurels, but demands urgency and concrete actions. In this regard, among the many things needing to be done, I would like to highlight a challenge that concerns everyone and not simply this country. What causes poverty is not so much the absence of goods and opportunity, but their unequal distribution. Those who are prosperous, especially if they are Christians, are challenged to share what they have with those who lack what is necessary, and all the more so if they are members of the same people. It's not a matter of benevolence or goodness, but of justice. It's not philanthropy, it's faith. For as Scripture says, faith without works is dead. This brings us to our second question, which has to do with duty and the urgency of doing good. How is it to be done? How is charity to be carried out? What criteria should be followed? Here I'd like to offer you three simple thoughts. They are familiar to the charitable institutions working here, but they're helpful to recall because serving Jesus and the poor should become an ever more fruitful form of witness. First of all, charity calls for setting an example. It's not simply something we do, but an expression of who we are. It's a way of life, a way of living out the gospel, and it requires credibility and transparency. I'm thinking of the financial and administrative management of projects, but also of the need to provide appropriate services in a competent manner. This is precisely the spirit that marks many ecclesial works that benefit this country and have distinguished its history. May we always set a good example. The second point, being far-sighted, that is, having foresight, being able to look ahead. It is vital that initiatives and good works not only respond to immediate needs, but that they might also be sustainable over time. They are not meant to be welfare-oriented, but they should consider what will prove most effective in the long term. In this way, they can last and not end with those who started them. In this country, for example, the soil is incredibly fertile and extremely productive. The generosity of those who provide you with aid must appreciate this reality and foster the growth of the people who inhabit this land, teaching them how to cultivate it and creating development projects that leave the future in their hands, rather than distributing goods that will always be in short supply. It is better to transmit knowledge and the tools that make development autonomous and sustainable. Here I propose the great contribution made by Catholic health care services, which in this country, as in many others throughout the world, offer relief and hope to the people, assisting the suffering in a spirit of generosity and competence, seeking always, as is right, to help others through the use of appropriate and up-to-date means. Setting an example, being far-sighted, and now the third element, being connected. Brothers and sisters, you must network, not only virtually, but concretely. We see this illustrated in your country in the symphony of life found in the great forest and its diverse vegetation. Networking calls for ever greater cooperation. It means constant interaction with one another, always in communion with the local churches and the region. Networking, each according to his or her charism, yet together, connected, sharing concerns, priorities, and needs, without remaining isolated or self-referential, prepared to work alongside other Christian communities and other religions, and the many humanitarian organizations present here, all for the good of the poor. Network with everyone. Dear brothers and sisters,
Grazie tante perché avete toccato il cuore. Siete preziosi. Vi benedico e vi chiedo per favore di continuare a pregare per me, che ne ho bisogno. Grazie.
And he concluded, dear brothers and sisters, I leave you with these reflections, and I thank you for what you've given me, which I treasure in my heart, and it's true. It really touched my heart. You are a great treasure. I bless you and ask you please to continue to pray for me. I really need it. The Holy Father receiving the applause of those here, both those who work in charitable institutions and a representation of those he helps. And we now pray the Our Father.
Le Seigneur est avec vous. Que Dieu Tout-Puissant vous bénisse, le Père, le Fils et le Saint-Esprit. Amen.
The Holy Father blessing all of those here. Everyone now joining in with this hymn led by the blind choir here as our Holy Father now being led away in his wheelchair that he's using. And with these images, we now bring an end to this live broadcast of Pope Francis meeting with members of charitable organizations in Kinshasa on his 40th Apostolic journey, and this wraps up Pope Francis's second day, but first full day of events here in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. I invite you to visit the Vatican News web portal.
Seigneur Dieu, tu prends soin de tout.
Oh, miso mangondo mon Santo Maria. Soit agréable à Dieu le monde, dans l'unité du Congo na bino banson. Ça, c'est
Le Fils et le Saint-Esprit.